Let's talk about something. Remember the tanker trade, oil tanker trade, or oil tanker investment? Many of you found this YouTube channel because of the tankers. And now, I'm going to use this as an example of what's going on in the economy and investments. So, right now, I hear all sorts of messages. Don't buy a stock of an ABC company because of recessions, because of interest rates, because maybe they're going to have a bad quarter, right? So, they're talking as if just because there's a bad quarter, just because there's a slowdown, you shouldn't own these things at any price, right? And if we talk about the tankers, so when COVID started, we were all on a shutdown, and the oil kept getting produced, and we weren't using it at the moment, 3 inches in front of people's face. So then it had to go to the storage, right? So a lot of it went on the floating storage. So the daily rates for the crude tankers, daily rates for the product tankers skyrocketed. And the trade became popular. Why? Because it was 3 inches in front of people's face. And I am guilty of that, that it caught my attention because it was 3 inches in front of people's face, right? But now the rates, the daily rates for the crude tankers, they were freaking crazy high. They were like 100,000 per day, 200,000 per day. Even like something was reported, I think 300,000 per day. Like when the normal is maybe like 20, 25,000, like a good rate, right? So it was good times, right? Now, because those rates were so high, didn't mean that the stocks of oil tankers needed to have unlimited value, right? Didn't mean that each tanker company had to be worth as much as Amazon, right? Didn't mean that. Even though the rates were good, so what? Then came the collapse in rates, because then, the floating storage had to be worked off. The rates came down really, really low. Even below 10,000. It was so low. The stock prices collapsed. And I heard the same stories. Oh, they're not making any money. The quarter is going to be bad. Don't buy the oil tanker stocks. La, 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 la. And so just because the rates were bad, just because at that time the companies were losing money, doesn't mean they were worthless, correct? Doesn't mean that. And eventually, the stock prices bottomed, and pretty much the stock prices of all of these companies are higher than at a peak of, frenzy, right? The peak interest. They are higher, right? Because it was temporary. These things were temporary. Now, I see the same talk right now. It's like, oh, you don't want to own this or you don't want to own that because they're going to have a, negative growth quarter, or they might have, unprofitable quarter. Okay, so what? Does it mean that this thing should go to zero? Is it temporary? Is recession or downturn a permanent thing? Or is it something that changes? Right? This is what I'm talking about. This is when the wealth transfers happens, right? Because people are like, oh, I don't want to be buying Voxter because the originations are down. Okay, 3 inches in front of your face. That's when they're down. Doesn't mean they're always going to be down. You see, it's like we can people can all see 3 inches in front of the face. They can all see the same thing. They can all see the articles, but that doesn't mean that these companies are worthless. That doesn't mean they shouldn't be bought. That doesn't mean that they're gonna go down more. And I see more and more like people are like now, oh, we're not gonna see a turn until a particular day. How crazy stupid comment is that? Like if you go back to 2008, there was nobody that could have told you that the market was going to bottom, March or April. Like, you can't predict that kind of stuff. Like, it doesn't matter what indicators you use. You don't know when that thing is going to bottom. Okay? You have no idea. There's no green flashing sign that's going to tell you it could happen. It could have already happened. It could happen next week. It could happen in 6 months. You don't know. Nobody knows. Okay? They predict things, and then when they're lucky, they say, oh, I predicted it. Yeah. And you predicted it 50 times wrong before you got it right. Yeah? And like, if let's say you look at the stock of Oracle, it reached 60 cents Canadian. Maybe it already bottomed, or maybe it didn't bottom. Like, if it bottomed, it simply ran out of sellers. And it doesn't matter what happens to the economy, if there's no more people that are going to sell, no more, then it's finished. I have another company that didn't even budge, and it's a micro cap. It didn't even budge on the way down. In this downturn, it sold off heavily during COVID because it was tied. Their business was tied. It was impacted by COVID, but now their business is not impacted by. I mean, it is impacted a bit, but it's not impacted that much. The stock didn't even budge. Why? Because the people that are in it, they're not selling it. It doesn't matter what happens, what they're reading, they're just not selling it. So it's just, there's no rules like this. But anyway, bringing up the tankers, it so reminds me of how people talk about the economy today. It's like, oh, the rates are bad. Oh, the quarter is going to be bad. Therefore, I'm going to sell everything, and it's worth zero. It's not like that, guys. It's just not like that.